Through this series, Bitwise Industries is proud to share the journey of pre-apprentice to journey worker from the inception of the Bitwise Industries model to the successful program we have today. I'm honored to host this first session as we chat with some of our very first students of Bitwise classes. We will hear the story of how these individuals were introduced to Bitwise classes, what it's been like going through the apprenticeship program, and where they are today. My name is Greg Goforth, and I'm the CTO for Bitwise Industries, and I've had a chance to work with all of the people on the panel today, so I'm excited to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get to the questions.
Hi, my name is Alex Gutierrez, Central Valley kid, born and raised in Sanger, California. Currently an apprentice lead myself, actually, overseeing a group of aspiring React JavaScript framework developers.
Hello, my name is Raquel Garcia. I'm also from the Central Valley and currently the curriculum architect for workforce training, overseeing instruction and curriculum for the classes.
And I'm Arturo Ceballos. I'm currently the Director of Online Marketing. I am a former apprentice, and I also lead our current online marketing apprenticeship. I am also from the Central Valley, and yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your personal background. Where are you from? What did you think you were going to do when you grow up? Alex?
Cool. So I am from Sanger originally, born and raised there. And I think the thing about Sanger is that, especially where I grew up, like there's a lot of opportunity for us to like expand and grow, but there's not a lot of resources there in the community. And so especially growing up, like technology wasn't something that like we talked about. But for me, I always just sort of looked at the people closest to me, and like my dad, I would always see him outside like working on cars. And so I thought that like working on cars was like him like building a car or something. So I always told myself, I'm gonna be a mechanical engineer when I grow up. I wanna build cars. All he was really doing was like changing the oil or like just checking the water, stuff like that. So like nothing significant. He's just like checking the car regularly. But like to me, that's what I wanted to do growing up. Like I wanted to build things. I wanted to be an engineer of some sort. I totally didn't follow that path in college. Like that was something that I didn't actually end up doing. But like, you know, my story kind of flows around from that point on. But I think that's ultimately like how it all started, was just like this idea of I can build things, I can do things. And like my community really helped build a lot of that into me as well.
That's amazing.
Rocky? Yeah, so I moved around a lot as a kid. So I grew up in Carruthers, Raisin City, Easton, Fresno. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up. Like I made it through high school, but like barely made it through high school. And then I went into college, couldn't decide on a major. I ended up dropping out so I could just work more hours so I can just pay my bills and stuff. So, and just in doing all that, I just ended up here, and I'm just happy to be here right now. So, yeah.
And yeah, so I'm originally from Burbank, but I grew up in Fresno, so I claim Fresno my home. Like Rocky, I didn't really know what I wanted to do growing up. I think I had a lot of energy and a lot of potential, but it wasn't very focused. And I decided that I was going to follow in the footsteps of my dad and become an architect. I learned very quickly that I didn't like that, so I ended up dropping out of school and somehow ended up here. So.
That's awesome. So you've all found your way through some Bitwise classes and ended up working with Bitwise. But prior to that, what was your career status? What were you doing?
Yeah, well, like I said, I dropped out of school. I was working at Subway, and I hated making sandwiches. I just remember coming home, and my hands would always smell like banana peppers and jalapenos and onions and stuff. It was the worst. And so my goal at the time was just to get out of that as quickly as possible. So I ended up doing one of those like pyramid scheme things, you know, and
That was you?
That was me. That was me. So yeah, it was like a multi-level marketing company, and I actually took it really seriously, and I was able to quit my Subway job doing that, but I knew that that wasn't going to be what I do for the rest of my life. And so I ended up stopping that. I was in Orange County at the time. I moved back to Fresno, and I was like, I want to start a business, but I don't really have the money to do that, and I know I need a website. And that's kind of how I ended up at Bitwise. I wanted to learn how to build a website from scratch so that I can start a business. And I did not expect to fall in love with the people and what I was learning and the community. And ever since I walked through those doors that first day, I never wanted to leave. So
Awesome. How about you, Rocky?
Yeah, I was working at Ross Just for Less, and I remember at one point my goal was actually to get the lifetime discount. Like if I worked there for 10 years, I could get a 20% discount for the rest of my life. So that was actually a legit goal I had. And then eventually just being in that environment all the time and just how like it could be really toxic, I just realized, you know, this isn't actually everything. I could actually do something else, do something better for myself. So started looking around, found Bitwise, and saw they had a website. They accepted payments online. I didn't have to talk to anybody. So I signed
Perfect.
up. It was just perfect. I was done talking to people. So signed up for my first class. Actually, because of the really bad wages I was making, I couldn't afford the class. So I opened up a credit card and I paid for my first class and I bought a laptop. And then that's how I got into the classes. And luckily, as soon as I got in, again, like Arturo said, the environment, the people, like they were actually wanting to see me succeed. And at that point, it was like, okay, I don't want to let them down either. So that's what ultimately motivated me to continue going, as well as like taking an interest into what I was actually learning. So that was cool.
Awesome. But you, Alex?
I prior to Bitwise, I was actually working in a nonprofit, and it was all like really amazing work because it was working with young people in marginalized communities to like look at what are some disparities, and so a lot of it was like mentoring, like working with young folks and talking to them about like what they can do, how to be leaders in their community. And so I was always that person that was telling somebody like, you should go and be great. You should go and be the next lawyer, doctor, community leader, city council member, whatever that looked like. And I was like 26, 27. And it just sort of like dawned on me that like I'm telling everybody else to go and do these things that are amazing. And not that the work that I wasn't doing was amazing. It was spectacular. It shaped a lot of who I am today. But the problem was that it felt like that path to make actual change was really slow. And like if you actually wanted to do something good, you had to go through these like all this red tape and all these processes, and then there was always turnover, especially in like government. And so that always halted a lot of like what you could do significantly. And so I thought like, I think that there's a better way to do this work. And I saw technology as that like path, that avenue to do good communal work and progressive change quickly without any of that red tape. And so I think it just, in my brain, it started clicking like, I'm telling all these people and all these young folks to do these amazing things. Like, why aren't I following a similar path? And why aren't I, continuing to push forward in what I want to do, which is like community change, like doing something that's positive for those around you and those who've come behind you. And I think technology at that time, especially, was like 2013, 2014. So like Facebook had blown up. I think the Social Network movie was out. Google was like the biggest thing ever. Like everything just felt like it, but it felt so far away. Like all of those things felt like that's nothing here. That's not for me, but that's cool. How can I do that? And so that was just, when I actually ran into Bitwise, it was like a world of rainbows that just I kind of walked into casually. And so I don't know, it's a really interesting, I think, story, just feeling and level of excitement, especially on that first day of seeing all those people. So
super interesting. Thanks for sharing all of that. So then how did you find yourself in your first Bitwise class?
Yeah, so actually it was through my sister. So actually it was through my mom. So going back, my mom, she works at Central Unified, and she's like always going into like workshops, and she's like trying to find resources for her students. And she was given a tour by Jed, Jake's younger brother, and she came back home super excited. She's like, "Oh my God, it's the Google of Fresno!" And I think back then it might have been a little laughable because we were in a tiny little building, and she was just hyped. And she's like, "Yeah, it's the Google of Fresno. They're gonna make so much change in the community and this and that." And my mom gets really excited about everything all the time, so we kind of just went over our heads. And Vanessa, my sister, had just dropped out of school via my advice, and so she wasn't. Yeah. So she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do, and my mom had kept bringing up classes at Bitwise. So Vanessa's like, you know what, I have nothing to lose. She decided to take a class, and I'd see her working on her computer late at night, and she's like building out this website. And it was actually within like the matter of like 2-3 weeks, it was something that looked really, really good. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But also you're not taking full advantage of what you're learning. So I'm going to take a class and show you up, because that's just what big brothers do, I guess. And yeah, I was not expecting, like I said, to fall in love with learning how to code. And taking a class at Bitwise was the first time that I had a teacher that actually cared about what they were teaching. And it was the first time that I felt like they had a vested interest in me. So I had a teacher in high school that actually told me not to go to college because it'd be a waste of my time. And so it was like the complete opposite experience. And I'm super grateful for it, and it completely changed my life.
That feels like a super common theme with a lot of the people that I've met that work at Bitwise, where it's I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but realized that college probably wasn't the thing that was going to be for me, and so like figuring out what you were going to do with that next, and then finding classes and all that kind of stuff. That's awesome. How about you, Rocky?
So I had found out from a friend. They, I guess, I don't know if it was Jake or Jed that had come to the city college to talk about Bitwise, and so we're having lunch one day, eating our burritos, and like he's like, "Hey, there's this like company that wants to start like a mini Google in Fresno," and we're kind of like snickering, as we're eating our burritos, like, "Hey, not in Fresno," but then he just kept telling me about it. They're teaching people how to build websites, and then just getting them set up to actually get jobs in the tech industry. At the time, like I said, I was working in retail, and I didn't know. I knew I wanted to find something better, but I knew I had already tried college, and I didn't know. I didn't have a good sense of what to do there, so I figured I could take these classes. It's learn these skills that didn't require me to take all of the like prereqs and stuff like that. So I went to the website, and I saw, on the website that it was in big words, or like the heading on the website was, "We teach you skills that will make you money." And my broke 20-year-old self was like, I need money, so let me learn these skills. So that's ultimately what drew me to taking classes, was just thinking, okay, well, this could potentially help me in my financial situation. Yeah.
How about you, Alex? Oh.
So the nonprofit I was working with, the community-based organization, was called Youth Leadership Institute, and I had never heard of Bitwise, like, ever, or Geekwise or any of that. But our office space happened to be like down the street from the Mural District building, like literally like a block and around the corner. And so I was out for a walk, and I think I was at the end, like my contract was going to expire, so I knew that I was going to have to make a decision on what's next. And I was just kind of out for a walk, but like I was in a headspace where I was like, what's next? Like, I don't know. I really had no idea what was going to happen, what I wanted to do, because I knew that I wasn't like feeling fulfilled with what I was doing. And I happened just like to go around the corner, and I saw, it might have been like Talisha outside preparing for some tech event, something crazy, right? Yeah. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but I was like, and I just kind of walked into the building, like just like a stranger just walked into the building. And it, like when you walked in, it was like bright colors in the Mural District, like there was like video game stuff, and it just felt like, what the hell did I just step into? Like, what the hell is this place? And so Talisha walks in, and I was like, what's going on here? And she's like, oh, this is Bitwise. And I was like, cool. She's like, do you want to know more about it? I was like, yeah, I want to know more about it. And so she called over Terry Solis. And so Terry Solis comes over, champion of geeks at that point, and was like the person that just put it all full circle for me. She like came over, and like she's like, you want to talk? And I was like, yeah, cool. And she took me over to like one of the back rooms where they had like the pinball machines, and you had like the Terminator and the Nintendo games. So that was already like the weirdest thing ever, because it's like, what office space just has a Super Nintendo and a TV and pinball and like murals everywhere and chalk? It was just the weirdest thing. And everybody's dressed up in like shorts and flip-flops and t-shirts, and I was like, this doesn't feel right, but whatever, this is cool. So she talked to me for like an hour about like life and what I was doing and who I was and what technology is doing, what Bitwise is doing. I was like, this is amazing. So she definitely got me to sign up for a couple classes like that day. And I think I started the next week or something like that. But it was just like, it just felt like, how did this happen? Because I was out for a walk just feeling like, I don't know what's next. And I run into this building and it just all sort of fell into place at that point. So it was, I mean, maybe it was meant to happen, but I don't know. It felt very surreal, it was something that I will never forget. I'll always tell that story to people. So shout out to Terry Solis.
Shout out to Terry.
Shout out to Terry, for sure. So we've now heard a little bit about how you kind of came to find Bitwise and what you were doing before that. And so you stepped your first foot into a class at Bitwise. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was a little bit intimidating because you're going into like a world that you don't know. I never saw myself getting involved in the technology industry at all. Like I always thought it'd be cool maybe to like make a game or something like that, but I never thought that I was smart enough to actually do that thing. So I was intimidated for sure, but I was also like excited because it was, for me, what was next in my life. That was like the path that I had chosen, and I was excited about that. But yeah, it was, like I said, for me it was life-changing because I never really had anybody that believed in me, or at least I never felt like I did. And Terry, for me, was that first person that really, I think the champion of geeks is accurate because like she was my champion, and we would have talks on the green couch and talk about life and everything, like you're saying, and everything just kind of made sense when I was with Terry. And it was the first time that I had anybody that had a vested interest in me. So I think aside from the skills that I was learning, which were obviously like extremely valuable, there was something in establishing those relationships with these people that really absolutely changed my life. And without Terry, without you and everybody that I met through Bitwise, like I wouldn't be where I'm at. So and yeah, the classes were amazing. The classes were good too.
Yeah, for me, it was intimidating, but at the same time, like I did move around a lot, so I was kind of used to being the new kid, not just coming into a new situation, not knowing anybody. I was also really quiet, and I had a very similar, I guess, situation happen to me in high school when, as Arturo mentioned earlier, that the teachers just kind of write you off and be like, no, you're not going to do anything. I don't need to like worry about you.
We should go back someday.
Right? I know. I'm going to send them flowers. Yeah. So yeah, I had similar situations like that happen to me in high school, and so it just really kind of jaded me from the whole school system in general. And coming into Bitwise and having Terry Solis, she was a TA for the class at the time that I took, and she would come in and just ask me, like, how are you doing? Do you need help with anything? Do you want to go to study group? Just inviting me out and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, you're talking to me? Okay. Like, this is cool. Like I was, I'm not used to people taking an interest in me like that, especially in a school setting. So really kind of drove the motivation for me to continue like going into the next class and the next class after that. And then I remember being offered the apprenticeship and or to try out for the apprenticeship, and hearing Irma say, you're here, everybody's here because somebody vouched for you, somebody put your name in the ring to be here. And at that point I just started crying. I was like, this is insane. Cool. This has never happened to me before. So that's been my experience taking the classes.
That's cool. How about you, Alex?
What was that experience like? So definitely like I was nervous on day one. I felt super intimidated. Like I tried to grow up going into engineering. Like that was what I thought I was gonna do. And it was crazy because like since the age of 4, I thought engineering is the path. And not that I even knew, I thought engineering was being a mechanic. Like literally that's what I thought an engineer was. And so when I got to school, I actually took engineering courses and I hated it. Like, hated it. The professors felt like they were 99 years old. Like no knock against them, they're great guys, but I would walk out of class and I felt like, why do I hate this? Like, why something that I wanted to do my whole life, do I not connect with it? And so like I switched from that to like the social services and the social sciences. And so like I had really no actual hard skills in technology. And so I was nervous. I was nervous as hell. And like the first day, I think it was a JavaScript class. The first day I just felt like I went straight into JavaScript. I was aiming high. Terry was like, you want to take a boot camp class? You want to take JavaScript? I was like, what's JavaScript? Is that like, what do they do there? She explained it. And, but like, yeah, over the head, but like the connection, and it felt like college engineering courses were black and white and just like dull and dry. But like Bitwise classes felt like colors and rainbows, and it felt like what I thought technology was supposed to be was actually happening there at Bitwise. Like I wanted to do things like building apps and software. I wanted to like do things like Facebook and Google. Didn't feel that in my previous experience. And so when I got there, I was like, this is dope. Like, this is cool. It was hard. And at that point, like, I think that at that point, I actually didn't even have a job anymore. So I was like going every morning to Starbucks. Like my job was to go to Starbucks and like just teach myself JavaScript. Like that's all I did. And my wife didn't like that because she was the only one making money. And we had rent and stuff. So, but I was like, I'm gonna do this. Come on, honey, we can do this. So hard. I don't think I even learned a whole lot other than just how to fail. And like over and over. And I guess it's a process, I guess.
Yeah, definitely part of the process. And it's interesting to me that like in each of your cases, you're like the poster children for like investing in yourself and like going out and finding that, you know, that thing for you, and in doing that through Bitwise classes, I think that's super cool. So then you took these classes, you started building apps and websites and all that kind of stuff. Where did that lead you? What's been the trajectory of your career since then?
Man, mine has been all over the place. Yeah, so I started off, I took some classes, was invited to the first apprenticeship, which was amazing. I remember being in that room when Jake and Irma were kind of like announcing it and like talking about what it was gonna be. And I remember sitting there, and my only thought was, I don't know who these people are, but I'm gonna follow them wherever they go. And that was the only thing that I cared about that day. So when Jake was like, does anybody have any questions about it? And like people were like, oh, but I have school and this and that. I was like, how are you guys making excuses? Like, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, or at least it felt like to me. So I just, you know, my hand shot up. I was like, when do I start? Or like, when can I start? And so I was in your apprenticeship, and that, honestly, I owe a lot to you for the reason where I am today. Like if it weren't for you, I would not be here. So thank you first and foremost for that. But yeah, I mean, I learned so much, and it was only 6 months, but I learned more than I ever learned in school, and I think I had a great teacher, and yeah, I was in the apprenticeship that led to a job at Bitwise. I still remember that day so vividly. I mean, you were there. And then from there, actually, I think 2 years into working as a software developer, a friend of mine was like, hey, I want to start a company. I already pitched it to some investors, and I want to know if like you want to do this with me. I need a software developer. And I was like, let's do it. So I moved up to Berkeley. We were in an accelerator program, and that was fun. I learned a lot from it. It didn't work out quite the way that I expected, but I'd do it over 1 million times. And I found my way back in Fresno, and I was kind of freelancing and doing my thing. And I had taken up a job as a contractor for you guys. And I think you approached me like, hey, like we could use you back on the team. And so it took a little bit of convincing, but I came back, which is crazy to say. Like you shouldn't have to. Yeah, you don't have to convince people to want to work at Bitwise. But yeah, that led to a job back here at Bitwise, and then I learned through my experience at the accelerator that I sucked at marketing. Like, I'm at the point now where I could build anything in my head when it comes to an app, but I can't get it in the hands of the right person. So like, I could build the coolest thing in the world, but it's not going to go anywhere. And so Irma coincidentally started doing these workshops on Facebook ads. And when after the first one, I was like, dude, I'm going to learn everything about Facebook ads. Like, that's what I need to apply myself to. And it was like the cohort all over again. I felt this passion that was like reignited, and I wanted to just consume everything. So that's what I was doing. I was learning that at night while I was working as a software developer during the day. And a couple months into that, I asked Irma if there was an opportunity for me to run some ads for her. And she gave me a shot. I ran one campaign that became 2, T became 4, and so on and so forth. And then I was able to fully transition into an online marketing role, which, you know, I'm super grateful for, because like, who has a boss that will be like, yeah, like, you're really good at this thing, and you suck at this thing, but we'll let you try it anyways, you know? And, but that's what happened. And then, it got to the point where I couldn't run the campaigns on my own. So we started an online marketing apprenticeship that I led. And now I lead the online marketing division of Bitwise, and am teaching another apprenticeship.
Such a cool story, and like totally full circle from being the apprentice to leading the apprenticeship. It's so neat.
The best thing in the world.
Yeah, so neat. Rocky, how about you?
So I was in the classes. I took an internship doing like static websites with Edit LLC. So I did that for a little bit, and during that time, still trying to sharpen my JavaScript skills, because I sucked at JavaScript. I took it 3 times. One time, like, I took it outside of Geekwise. Sorry, I went to Fresno City and did like a boot camp over the summer. Came back, still didn't really know how to use, like, didn't really understand it, but I knew how to use it enough to build stuff. So continued learning. Got into the second apprenticeship that they ran with Alex. So we were in the same apprenticeship together, again, led by Greg, Regulators. Sorry. So, yeah. So we learned a lot in that apprenticeship. It was crazy. Thinking back, like, we learned 2 different stacks in a 6-month period. And that still blows my mind to this day. Like, I was just thinking about that just yesterday, about how much information we were given, and then how much trust we were given as well. Because maybe like a month and a half into learning how to build WordPress sites, we were asked to build different sites. So like, I think you worked on the Shift3 site, I worked on the Bitwise site. And that was
the
insane.
hell out of us.
And it was crazy. I know.
We did the Geekwise website our first day on the job.
I know. They had so much faith in us, though, and that was insane to me. And then the second half of the apprenticeship, we learned MeanStack, where I ended up working on an application for a small startup in Fresno. Ended up getting a job with that company after the apprenticeship, and worked there as a front-end developer for 2 years. It was a really small startup, though. Like, there was a point where we didn't even have an office because we couldn't afford it. We all worked from home for like a year, constantly running out of money. Eventually, after 2 years, I was like, okay, I have, about 3 years experience, that's the magical number that people look for when you're applying to be a developer. So I was like, okay, I got 3 years. I'm going to go apply for other things. And so I did. I was looking around. I came back to Bitwise, and I felt like they had no reason to help me at that point, but came back, met with Terry, again, life stories, swapping life stories. And she kind of just coached me into like telling me, let's get your resume looking good again. Let's get you practice with interviews, mock interviews. Why don't you, I know these other people who are also looking for jobs. Like, let's have you meet with them and teach them what you're learning and everything like that. So did that, and then I just kept showing up. I was there every day. I was like, so here, looking for jobs. Hey guys. And eventually, Greg reached out and was like, hey, we have this position that we're trying to fill. It's not a development position, but like, I think you'd be really good at it. And it's, you know, we're writing technical documents for sales and stuff like that. And at the time, I really wanted to continue being a developer because I felt like there was still so much I wanted to learn in that field. But then just being in that room, in the Donkey Kong conference room, you know, and being offered this opportunity to work with Greg, who I looked up to for years. Like, you're my lead. Like, you taught me everything I know about development to this day.
Tell me everything I know about life.
Life, development, just being a good person, and leadership, like all of that. So I was like, I would be crazy not to take this opportunity to work with like Greg again. So I did, and it was a solutions engineer position. So I took that position, and I did that for about 2 years. And the whole time, like, I'm the type of person that, like, if something's not really, like, I'm not really passionate about something, then I'm going to find something that I am passionate about. And yes, like, there were a lot of things that really made that job fulfilling. Like, you know, working with clients, helping them build their dream applications and stuff, like, that was really great. But at the same time, like, I kept coming back to the training side because I had actually taught for them a few times. And there were just a lot of things with, like, you know, curriculum, instruction, stuff like that, that I wanted to make sure that I had I just wanted to help. I was like, I know things aren't perfect because they're never going to be perfect, but if there's a chance for me to come in and make any type of improvement or anything like that, I wanted to do that. So I volunteered a lot of my time during the time that I was doing solutions, and I eventually came back to training and started overseeing curriculum and instruction for them. Yeah.
All right. And how about you, Alex?
So I think this is actually like my favorite Bitwise story because it felt like, I don't know, I mean, because I think it really, like, to me, it is where it all kind of happened. And it was after taking a couple classes, Terry reached out to me, and she had brought up this cohort that Bitwise was doing. And I kind of knew a little bit about the first one because I know that the first one was already in progress, and it was like you were leading it, and this guy was in it, and his sister, and some of the other folks who, like, original Bitwisers. And so, like, I got invited to that, and I was like, that sounds amazing, let's do it. So I went to the meeting, and then this is where Jake and Irma and Beth all broke it down and told us about it. And so what it was, though, was like, it was like a 1 week tryout is what it felt like. It was like, you're going to take a class with Greg, 9 to 3 or 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Yep. Yeah, it was Hunger Games. Yeah, it was Squid Games. And so me not knowing, like, I felt like it was maybe my second class. I was in my second class at that point. I walked in, and there was 30 people there for 8 spots. 30 people for 8 spots. And I felt instantly like I was at the bottom. Like, I was like, I am not the smartest person in this room right now. Like, I felt like I did not belong there.
Was Arturo also in the room?
Arturo, no, he was not.
Gotcha, okay.
So I would have probably felt one bump above. So that was like so intimidating because it felt like everybody just knew how to build these crazy apps. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. And so we went through the 5 days of it. And I remember, like, on day 3, and this is, I think, my favorite part of this story because it was like on day 3 when we took a little break and you were outside and I was outside, and I went up to you and I was like, Greg, I just wanted to let you know that, like, I know I'm not the smartest at this, but I'm a hard worker. And if you give me a chance, I know that I'm going to outwork every single person in that cohort because I really want this. I didn't know if that was going to work or not. But
I 100% remember that conversation, and it's 100% why I wanted to have you join.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that was amazing because I think that took us into Friday, and at the end of Friday, we were told you're going to get an email. You're going to get an email that says whether you're in or not, and that felt like, again, Hunger Games. That's Squid Games right there, right? Games. You know, cue the green light, red light, whatever, and. I remember it was like, you guys said like 6 or 7 o'clock or something, like, it was like past midnight.
Like
yeah.
The
suspense was the worst because there was a couple of things happening actually. So I was unemployed and I wasn't making any money at that point. And so I knew, and this is what I had talked with my wife about. I said, like, I just need to try this. And so the I don't know, the negotiation aspect of it was that like, if I didn't get into the cohort, then I would go back and get a full-time job doing something, figure it out. And so I knew that like, if technology was going to be my path, this was it. Like that, it was like, this was the only chance I was probably going to get, because that, so it's 11:30, get the email, refresh. Finally I see it and I'm like, all right, I don't want to open this crap. Like, this is too much for me. And you get through it and it doesn't even say anything right away. And then it finally says, congratulations, you're in. And it was like, wow, like that was, vivid is all I can explain it. Just how it's just, I just remember that moment so clearly in my mind. Getting into that cohort, working with you, I think we've all shared it. Like, there's people in Bitwise that like have put us here at this table. Terry was one of them, and you were the second one for me. You just like taught us so much, and in such a short amount of time. And it goes beyond technology. Like, even beyond the stacks, you taught us. Like, you just taught us how to be a professional, how to be a leader. Like, I think a lot of us now are in these roles doing this work, but like, we got it from you. So like, you were ultimately like the guy that gave us a lot of that original just flavor of how this job can be done in a different way. So I learned all the tech stuff after the cohort. Didn't have a job, didn't know where to go, right? Bitwise didn't have the opportunity at that point, but I hung around the building as much as I could. And Beth Milley asked me to teach some classes. I'd never taught classes. Still felt very new to technology. Finishing a cohort, by the way, or an apprenticeship, finishing the apprenticeship didn't make me feel like I knew it all. And I think that was the conception that like we all thought, like, I'm gonna do this for 6 months and I'm gonna be a master at it. Not even close. No. Not even close. All you've done is just basically taken off the blanket and you're able to see what it's really like behind the scenes, but like totally out of my element still. And I was asked to teach classes. I said, okay, I'll give it a go, I'll try it. Again, that's the trust factor with Bitwise. Beth was just like, you'll be great at it. Cool. Did that, and then I was, I think, in the building preparing curriculum for my class, and project manager Ricardo Benuelos saw me in the building, and he was like, hey, you do Angular, right? And I was like, I've done Angular. He's like, great, we need you. And so we put me on a project for Shift 3. It was a part-time contract. Did okay enough. Worked with a couple of like mid-level developers at that point. They said, great, we want you for another project. And that kind of just kept snowballing into like more and more until I think ultimately we were I was hired on to work as a software developer for Shift 3. Yep. And that was it. That was like, again, it felt like year 2 of having done this full time is when I felt confident in this work as a developer. And I think that's the thing about being an apprentice, is that like your journey is so long and you don't actually get all of it into a short amount of time. Like, just trust the process. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely. And I think you all have highlighted the perception that like from the outside, when you see somebody who is successful in tech or other industries, that it was, the straight line to get there. And the reality is that you end up bouncing all over the place until you find the right thing. And so I think each of your stories highlights that, but are super interesting. So thank you so much for sharing all of the your stories and the success you found at Bitwise. Thank you for watching at home.